Hey there, storytellers and story lovers. This is Monkey DFIC. Prepare yourselves for today's incredible narrative. What if Luffy was raised by Garp in the Marines? A quick reminder, your likes, comments, and subscriptions are the fuel that keeps this channel running. Thank you for being awesome. Let's begin this journey together. Chapter 1, The Rubber Recruit. The training yard echoed with the sound of fists hitting flesh and the grunts of young recruits. 7-year-old Monkey D. Luffy hit the dirt for the 5th time that morning, dust clouding around his small frame as he skidded to a stop. His cheek throbbed where his grandfather's fist of love had connected. Get up, Luffy. Pirates wouldn't give you time to catch your breath. Vice Admiral Garp bellowed, his imposing figure casting a long shadow over the training grounds. Luffy wiped blood from his split lip and pushed himself back to his feet. Other Marine recruits, all at least 10 years older, watched with a mixture of horror and pity. Nobody understood why the legendary hero of the Marines brought his grandson here, or why he trained him with such brutal methods. I'm not done yet, Grandpa. Luffy charged forward with his tiny fists raised. Garp grinned with pride even as he sidestepped the attack and sent Luffy tumbling again with a light tap. Light for Garp, anyway. That's the spirit. You've got Marine blood in you, boy. Whether you like it or not. After training, Luffy collapsed against a wall, gulping water from a canteen almost as big as his head. His body ached, but his eyes shone with determination. 3 weeks at Marine headquarters, and the routine was always the same: wake up at dawn, train until noon, lessons about navigation and Marine protocol until dinner, then collapse into bed. Why do you keep getting up? A voice pulled Luffy from his thoughts. A pink-haired boy about his age stood nearby, clutching a mop. I watched your training. Normal people would have stayed down. Luffy grinned despite his bruises. 'Cause I'm gonna be the strongest Marine ever. Even stronger than Grandpa. The boy's eyes widened. I'm Kobe. I just work here, cleaning and stuff. I'm Luffy. Wanna be friends? That simple exchange formed a bond that would change both their lives. While Kobe wasn't officially a recruit, he helped around the base in hopes of someday joining. In the weeks that followed, they became inseparable during whatever free time Garp's brutal training allowed. 3 months into Luffy's life at Marine headquarters, Garp burst into the mess hall during breakfast. Luffy! Pack your things. We're heading out on a real mission. The cafeteria fell silent. Taking a child on an actual Marine operation. Even for the famously unorthodox Garp, this seemed extreme. For real. Awesome. Luffy stuffed the remainder of his breakfast into his mouth all at once, cheeks bulging like a squirrel's. Vice Admiral, a stern-faced officer approached. With all due respect, bringing a child into a combat zone, he's not just any child. He's my grandson. Garp slapped the man on the back hard enough to send him staggering. Besides, it's just a simple escort mission. The perfect first experience. 6 hours later, Luffy stood on the deck of a Marine warship, eyes wide with excitement as they approached a small island in East Blue. He wore a miniature Marine cap that kept slipping down over his eyes. Listen up, Garp addressed the assembled Marines. Our mission is to escort a government transport carrying special cargo. Pirates have been targeting these shipments. We make contact at the port, provide protection during the transfer, and see them safely back to base. Simple. What's the special cargo, Grandpa? Luffy tugged at Garp's pant leg. None of your business, boy. Garp ruffled his hair roughly. Your job is to watch and learn. Stay by my side at all times, understand? Aye, sir. Luffy saluted with his left hand instead of his right. The port town was small but bustling. Luffy stuck close to Garp as they made their way through crowds toward a nondescript warehouse at the edge of the harbor. His eyes darted everywhere, taking in the sights of his first real mission. Whoa, is that guy a fishman? Luffy pointed at a blue-skinned individual loading cargo. Don't point, it's rude, Garp said, before leaning down to whisper, but yeah, that's a fishman. They're rare in East Blue. At the warehouse, they met a thin man in a black suit who spoke in hushed tones with Garp. Luffy tried to listen but got bored quickly and wandered a few steps away, examining a crate covered with strange markings. This is the cargo? Garp asked the man, who nodded. Just one crate. The contents are valuable. The transfer location has been compromised twice already. We suspect a leak within the local marine branch. While the adults talked, Luffy noticed something odd. A shadow moving along the warehouse roof that didn't match the clouds overhead. He tugged Garp's coat, but his grandfather waved him off impatiently. Not now, Luffy. The shadow moved again. Luffy frowned. His grandfather always said a marine should trust their instincts. But Grandpa, there's, an explosion rocked the warehouse, sending everyone diving for cover. Through smoke and debris, figures swung down from the roof. Pirates, someone yelled. Chaos erupted. Marines drew weapons as pirates poured in from multiple entrances. Garp shoved Luffy behind a stack of crates. Stay here. Don't move, he ordered before launching himself into the fray. Luffy watched in awe as his grandfather moved like a force of nature. One punch sent 3 pirates flying. The other marines engaged as well, but they were outnumbered. A pirate broke through the line, heading straight for the special cargo. No marines were close enough to intercept. Without thinking, Luffy darted from his hiding place. Hey! Stop right there. His voice cracked with determination despite its childish pitch. The pirate turned, startled to see a child blocking his path. He laughed. Beat it, kid, before you get hurt. I'm a marine. And you're under arrest. Luffy raised his fists the way Garp had taught him. The pirate's amusement turned to irritation. He drew a knife. Last warning, brat. Luffy. Get back. Garp's voice boomed across the warehouse, but he was pinned down fighting 4 pirates at once. Everything happened in seconds. The pirate lunged. Luffy tried to dodge but wasn't fast enough. The blade sliced his cheek, drawing blood. He stumbled backward into the special cargo crate, which had been damaged in the explosion. As he fell, his hand knocked against something inside, a strange, spherical fruit with swirling patterns. Scared and hurt, Luffy did the only thing his 7-year-old mind thought reasonable, he grabbed the fruit and took a massive bite. It tasted horrible. Like rotten fish and moldy bread had a baby. He gagged but swallowed reflexively. The pirate loomed over him, knife raised, and then went flying as Garp's fist connected with his face hard enough to embed him in the warehouse wall. I told you to stay put. Garp knelt beside Luffy, checking his wound. Sorry, Grandpa. But he was going for the special thing and, Luffy's explanation cut off as he noticed the half-eaten fruit in his hand. I ate something weird. Garp's eyes widened in horror. You what? The government agent in the black suit rushed over, saw the fruit, and went pale. That's impossible. The Gomu Gomu no Mi was secured in, he looked at the damaged crate. Oh no. What's a Gomu Gomu? Luffy asked, still grimacing at the awful taste. Instead of answering, Garp grabbed Luffy's cheek and pulled. To everyone's shock, including Luffy's, his cheek stretched like taffy nearly a foot before snapping back when Garp let go. It's a devil fruit, you idiot grandson. You just ate a devil fruit. Garp looked like he might faint. The Gomu Gomu no Mi. You're a rubber human now. Cool. Luffy stretched his own cheek experimentally, delighted when it extended. Look what I can do. Not cool. Garp's fist of love connected with Luffy's head, but this time, instead of sending the boy tumbling, his rubber skull just absorbed the blow with a comical, boing sound. You can never swim again. Ever. You'll sink like a hammer in water. The government agent looked like he was having a stroke. This fruit was being transported for high-ranking officers to examine. Do you have any idea what this means? It means, Garp said with a heavy sigh, my grandson's training just got a lot more complicated. The journey back to Marine headquarters was tense. The pirates had been captured or defeated, but the mission was considered a partial failure due to the loss of the devil fruit. Garp spent hours on the den mushy with his superiors, occasionally shouting about how the boy didn't know what he was eating. Meanwhile, Luffy discovered new rubber abilities by the minute. His arms could stretch. His legs could stretch. He could inflate parts of his body like balloons. Each new discovery was met with gleeful experimentation. Look, Grandpa. I can do this now. Luffy stretched his arm 20 feet across the deck to grab an apple from a barrel. Stop playing around. This is serious. Garp snapped, but there was worry beneath his anger. Devil fruit users were valuable, and targets. From now on, your training increases tenfold. You need to master these powers. Back at headquarters, word of Luffy's new abilities spread quickly. Some officers saw potential, others viewed him as a liability. Training became even more brutal as Garp pushed Luffy to control his rubber body. Again. Garp shouted as Luffy attempted to punch a training dummy without his arm wobbling like a noodle. Control the recoil. A rubber punch that doesn't hit its target is useless. I'm trying. Luffy's arm snapped back and hit him in the face. Ow. Did that hurt? I thought you were rubber, a voice drawled from the doorway. Captain Smoker leaned against the frame, arms crossed. The young white-haired officer was rising quickly through Marine ranks, known for his harsh but effective methods. It still hurts when I hit myself, Luffy mumbled, rubbing his nose. Vice Admiral, Smoker addressed Garp, the higher-ups sent me. They want an assessment of the boy's situation. Garp's face darkened. Tell them my grandson is training hard and his powers will serve the Marines well. That's for me to determine. Smoker stepped into the training room. Let me see what he can do. What followed was 3 hours of the most intense training Luffy had experienced yet. Smoker pushed him relentlessly, testing every aspect of his rubber abilities. By the end, Luffy lay panting on the floor, exhausted but grinning. He's undisciplined, sloppy, and has the attention span of a goldfish, Smoker told Garp as Luffy struggled to his feet. But, there's potential. With the right training, these powers could be formidable. So your report? Garp prompted. I'll tell them he's worth the investment. Smoker's eyes narrowed at Luffy. But boy, you better work harder than you've ever worked in your life. The Marines don't keep dead weight around, devil fruit or not. Luffy straightened up. I'm gonna be the strongest Marine ever. Just you watch. Smoker's mouth twitched in what might have been the ghost of a smile. We'll see. The next 2 years transformed Luffy from an enthusiastic child into something extraordinary. His rubber powers, initially wild and unpredictable, became responsive to his will. He developed techniques uniquely suited to his abilities, stretching punches that could hit from unexpected angles, inflating his body to bounce back attacks, even using his elasticity to increase his speed and strength. At 9 years old, Luffy still struggled with traditional marine disciplines. He fell asleep during navigation lessons. He couldn't recite the marine code without mixing up articles. But in combat training, he shone brilliantly. Gum Gum Pistol. Luffy's arm stretched across the training yard, fist connecting solidly with a practice dummy that exploded into stuffing. Better, Smoker nodded, supervising the session. But remember, a real opponent will move. You need to predict their evasion. Yes, Captain Smokey. Luffy had never quite managed the proper form of address, to Smoker's endless irritation. It's Captain Smoker, he corrected for perhaps the 1000th time. Life settled into a routine. Training with Garp when he wasn't away on missions. Sessions with Smoker and other officers developing his rubber abilities. Lessons on marine protocol he mostly slept through. And in rare moments of free time, adventures with Kobe, who had officially joined as a marine recruit. Everything changed the day Monkey D. Dragon's name appeared in the newspaper. Luffy was eating breakfast with Kobe when he noticed Marines gathering around someone reading the paper aloud. Revolutionary Army strikes again. Leader Monkey D. Dragon declared enemy of the world government after raid on Monkey D. Kobe whispered. Like you and your grandpa? Luffy frowned. Maybe it's a coincidence. But the whispers started immediately. Marines glanced at Luffy, then looked away quickly when he noticed. Conversations hushed when he approached. Even some instructors treated him differently. What's going on? Luffy confronted Garp that evening in their quarters. Everyone's acting weird. Who's this dragon guy? Garp looked older than Luffy had ever seen him. He sat heavily on his bunk, motioning for Luffy to join him. Dragon is, your father, Luffy. The words hit harder than any fist of love ever had. My father? But you never told me about him. You said he was away on important business. He is. Just not the kind I'd hoped. Garp sighed. Dragon and I, we disagree about how to make the world better. I believe in changing things from within the system. He chose a different path. He's a bad guy. Luffy's voice sounded small. The world government sees him that way. I see him as my stubborn son who's too impatient for gradual change. Garp put a heavy hand on Luffy's shoulder. This changes nothing about your training or your future here. You're your own person, Luffy. But things did change. Certain officers kept their distance. Others watched him more closely, as if expecting him to suddenly reveal revolutionary tendencies. Luffy felt the weight of suspicious eyes everywhere. This is stupid, he told Kobe as they mopped the mess hall floor. I've never even met my dad. How can they think I'm like him? People are afraid of what they don't understand, Kobe replied, surprising Luffy with his insight. Just keep being you. They'll see the truth eventually. Luffy nodded, but doubts had taken root. For the first time, he questioned his place in the Marines. 3 months after the Dragon revelation, Luffy got his chance to prove himself. Pirates attacked a civilian vessel near Marine headquarters, a bold move that suggested inside information. Garp was away, and with many senior officers responding to threats elsewhere, Captain Smoker was placed in charge of the response team. I want to go too. Luffy insisted, following Smoker to the docks. This isn't training, kid. It's real combat. I'm ready. Please, Captain Smokey. Smoker studied him for a long moment. Fine. But you stay on our ship unless I explicitly order otherwise. Understand? Yes, sir. Luffy saluted with the wrong hand again. The marine vessel intercepted the pirates just as they were boarding the civilian ship. From the deck, Luffy watched Marines engage in battle, frustrated at being sidelined. Then he saw something the others missed, a second pirate boat approaching from the far side of the civilian vessel. Without hesitating, he stretched his arms to grab the railing of the marine ship and catapulted himself across the water. Luffy! Smoker shouted, but it was too late. Luffy landed on the civilian ship just as pirates from the second boat began climbing aboard. Women and children screamed as rough men with swords and pistols surrounded them. Hey! Leave them alone. Luffy planted himself between the pirates and civilians. The pirate stared in disbelief at the small boy in a junior marine uniform. What's this? They're sending children to fight us now? The apparent leader laughed. Go home, boy, before you get hurt. Luffy didn't move. I'm Junior Marine Monkey D. Luffy. Surrender now. Monkey D. Like that revolutionary? One pirate whispered to another. Doesn't matter who his daddy is. He's dead meat now. The leader drew his sword. Get him. 3 pirates charged at once. Luffy took a deep breath and remembered his training. Gum Gum Whip. His legs stretched in an arc, sweeping all 3 pirates off their feet. Before they could recover, he followed with Gum Gum Pistol. His stretching punch caught the leader square in the face, sending him crashing into the ship's mast. The civilians stared in shock. The remaining pirates hesitated, suddenly unsure about this strange boy with stretching limbs. "What the hell are you?" one asked. Luffy grinned. "I'm a rubber human. And you're all under arrest." The battle that followed was chaotic. Luffy's rubber abilities gave him an edge, but he was outnumbered 15 to 1. He took hits but kept fighting, protecting the civilians with his body when necessary, discovering in the process that bullets bounced off his rubber skin. "He's bulletproof," a pirate shouted in panic after emptying his pistol at Luffy with no effect. Gum Gum Gatling. Luffy's arms became a blur of rapid-fire punches, taking down multiple opponents at once. By the time Smoker arrived with reinforcements, Luffy had defeated 8 pirates and was still fighting despite bleeding from several sword cuts. "Stand down, Luffy," Smoker ordered, his body transforming into smoke as he engulfed the remaining pirates. "But I almost had them all," Luffy protested, swaying slightly from exhaustion. The aftermath was mixed. Smoker was furious about Luffy's insubordination. The civilian passengers couldn't stop talking about the amazing rubber boy who saved them. Marine headquarters buzzed with rumors about Vice Admiral Garp's grandson single-handedly defeating a pirate crew. In Smoker's office, Luffy stood at attention, bandaged but unrepentant. "You directly disobeyed orders," Smoker said coldly. "I told you to stay on our ship. But they would have hurt those people before you noticed the second boat." Luffy argued. "That's not the point. Marines follow the chain of command. Period. Even if it means people die." Smoker's expression darkened. "Don't twist this. Your recklessness could have gotten you killed. But it didn't. I saved everyone. This time." Smoker sighed. "Look, kid. Your abilities are impressive, I won't deny that. But being a Marine isn't just about fighting. It's about discipline, following orders, being part of something larger than yourself." Luffy frowned. "So I should have just watched those pirates hurt innocent people?" "No, you should have." Smoker stopped, realizing there wasn't a good answer. The kid had spotted something experienced Marines missed. "You should have alerted us first, then acted." "There wasn't time." Before Smoker could respond, the door opened and Vice Admiral Garp burst in, back from his mission and already informed of the situation. "Luffy." His voice shook the room. "What were you thinking?" Luffy stood straighter. "I was thinking like a Marine, Grandpa. Protecting people." Garp looked ready to deliver his fist of love, then glanced at the report on Smoker's desk. His expression shifted. "Captain Smoker, what's your assessment?" Smoker looked between grandfather and grandson. The boy disobeyed direct orders. And he saved 23 civilians while defeating 8 armed pirates. Alone. Smoker's tone remained neutral, but something like respect flickered in his eyes. "His techniques have improved significantly." Garp nodded slowly. "Sounds like my grandson." The incident changed how Marines viewed Luffy. Some saw a hero in the making, others a loose cannon. But no one questioned his courage or commitment again. The whispers about Dragon faded, replaced by stories of the rubber boy who fought pirates. 2 months later, Luffy met Tashigi. The young swordswoman had just been assigned to headquarters as Smoker's new subordinate. She found Luffy practicing in the training yard, his arms stretching to impossible lengths as he demolished training dummies. "Interesting technique," she commented, adjusting her glasses. "Self-taught?" Luffy retracted his arms. "Mostly. Grandpa and Captain Smokey help sometimes. Captain Smoker, she corrected automatically. I'm Ensign Tashigi. You must be Luffy. Captain Smoker mentioned you. All good things, right? Luffy grinned. He said you're undisciplined but have potential. She drew her sword. Want to train together? I could use a moving target. Their training sessions became regular. Tashigi's swordsmanship challenged Luffy to improve his speed and reflexes. In return, her experience fighting his unpredictable rubber attacks sharpened her adaptability. You rely too much on your devil fruit, she told him after disarming him for the third time. What if you faced an opponent who could neutralize your powers? Like who? There are devil fruits with all kinds of abilities. Some might counter yours. Luffy considered this. Then I just have to hit them harder. Tashigi sighed but couldn't help smiling at his simplicity. There's more to combat than just hitting things, Luffy. Like what? Strategy. Analyzing your opponent's weaknesses. Using your environment. She resheathed her sword. Next time, I'll show you. As Luffy approached his 10th birthday, Garp announced a special assignment. Pack your things. We're going on a training voyage. Just us? Luffy asked excitedly. Not quite. Captain Smoker, Ensign Tashigi, and your friend Kobe will join us. It's time you experienced more of the world than just headquarters. The training voyage lasted 6 months. They visited islands across East Blue, responding to distress calls, hunting pirates, and training constantly. Luffy's abilities grew exponentially with real-world experience. He developed new techniques like Gum Gum Rocket for rapid movement and Gum Gum Balloon to deflect cannonballs. On an island plagued by a pirate crew led by the notorious Axe-Hand Morgan, Luffy faced his toughest challenge yet. While Garp and Smoker dealt with Morgan's main forces, Luffy, Tashigi, and Kobe protected villagers from raiders. Stay back. Luffy ordered as Morgan's son Helmeppo threatened a young girl with a pistol. Do you know who my father is? Helmeppo shouted, his voice shrill with panic as Marines closed in. I'll shoot her. I swear I will. Luffy, be careful, Tashigi warned, sword half drawn. Any sudden moves and he might pull the trigger. Luffy assessed the situation. Helmeppo was scared, not committed. The girl was crying but trying to stay brave. Standard Marine protocol would be to negotiate, maintain distance, prioritize the hostage's safety. But Luffy wasn't standard. Gum Gum. He whispered, then faster than anyone could track, pistol. His fist shot forward, stretching 20 feet in an instant to strike Helmeppo's wrist. The gun discharged harmlessly into the air as it flew from his grip. Before Helmeppo could react, Luffy was on him, pinning him to the ground. You'd hurt a kid just because you're scared. Luffy's voice was uncharacteristically cold. That's not what strong people do. My father will kill you for this. Helmeppo sobbed. Your father already surrendered to my grandpa, Luffy replied, having complete faith in Garp's abilities. He was right. Morgan was defeated, and both he and Helmeppo were taken into custody. But something about the incident stuck with Luffy, the way Helmeppo had hidden behind his father's reputation, the fear in the girl's eyes, the way some villagers seemed more afraid of Morgan than the pirates he was supposed to protect them from. Grandpa, Luffy asked that night aboard their ship, are all Marines good? Garp looked up from cleaning his pistol. What kind of question is that? Morgan was a Marine, right? But he hurt people. Garp sighed. The world isn't black and white, Luffy. There are good Marines and bad ones, just like there are good pirates and bad ones. But we're supposed to be the good guys. Most of us try to be. Garp put down his pistol. Justice looks different to different people. Some believe in absolute justice, punishing all crimes equally. Others believe in moral justice, looking at circumstances, intentions. What kind of marine do you want to be? Luffy thought hard, his face scrunching with the effort. I want to be the kind that protects people. Not just because it's the rules, but because it's right. Garp nodded, a rare smile softening his features. That's a good answer. As the training voyage continued, Luffy's reputation grew. Villages welcomed Garp's rubber grandson with open arms. His unorthodox method sometimes raised eyebrows, but results spoke for themselves. Pirates captured, civilians saved, justice served. On their final stop before returning to headquarters, they encountered an unexpected situation. A noble's ship had been attacked, but not by pirates, by fishmen. They're from the Sun Pirates, Smoker explained during the briefing. A crew comprised entirely of former slaves who escaped from Mariewa. Slaves? Luffy frowned. I thought slavery was illegal. An uncomfortable silence followed. It is, technically, Tashigi finally said. But some celestial dragons still practice it. That's wrong. Why don't we arrest them? Garp cleared his throat. The world nobles exist above conventional law, Luffy. It's complicated. It doesn't sound complicated. It sounds unfair. This isn't a debate about world government policy, Smoker cut in sharply. Our mission is to recover the nobles' property and apprehend the fishmen responsible. Luffy fell silent, but his mind raced. Something felt wrong about this mission. They found the Sun Pirates hiding in a cove, repairing their ship. From their surveillance point, Luffy saw something unexpected. The stolen property was people. Former slaves, their sun-shaped brands still visible, being treated for injuries. They're helping them, he whispered to Kobe. But our orders? Kobe looked torn. When the assault began, Luffy found himself face to face with a massive tiger shark fishman, Fisher Tiger himself, though Luffy didn't know the name's significance then. Another marine, Tiger growled. You humans are persistent. You stole those people, Luffy said, but it sounded more like a question. Stole. I freed them. Tiger's eyes blazed with fury. See for yourself what your noble masters did to them. Nearby, a doctor treated a young girl whose back was a mass of burns and whip marks. The sun brand on her shoulder was raw and infected. Luffy's stomach turned. This wasn't justice. This wasn't what being a marine meant to him. Luffy. Engage the enemy. Smoker's voice carried across the beach as he fought 3 fishmen simultaneously. For the first time in his life, Luffy hesitated to follow an order. Tiger noticed. Conflicted, little marine. Good. You should be. The battle raged around them, but Luffy and Tiger remained in their standoff, neither attacking. If you're freeing slaves, why did you attack the noble's ship? Luffy asked. We didn't attack. We responded to his guards firing on us when we approached slaves being transported. How do I know you're telling the truth? Tiger laughed bitterly. You don't. But ask yourself, why would former slaves risk their freedom to save others if not because they know exactly what hell awaits them? Before Luffy could respond, a massive explosion rocked the cove. The noble had arrived with reinforcements, and heavy artillery. Kill them all, the noble ordered, his voice shrill with indignation. The fish beasts and the slaves. They're all tainted now. Cannonballs rained down indiscriminately, hitting marines, fishmen, and freed slaves alike. Without thinking, Luffy stretched his body to shield a group of injured former slaves. Gum Gum Balloon. His inflated rubber body deflected several cannonballs. What are you doing? Smoker appeared beside him, smoke swirling angrily. They're shooting at everyone. Even us. Even the slaves. Smoker looked up at the noble's ship, his expression darkening as he saw marines falling to friendly fire. This is madness, he muttered. What happened next would change the course of Luffy's life. Garp, seeing the indiscriminate bombardment, made a decision that put justice above orders. He redirected the Marine forces to evacuate everyone from the cove, fishmen, slaves, and Marines alike. Vice Admiral Garp. The noble screeched through a transponder snail. What is the meaning of this? I order you to kill those thieves. With all due respect, Garp replied, his voice deceptively calm, you're endangering Marine personnel. I'm taking command of this operation. Do you know who I am? I'll have your rank for this. Garp's response was to punch an incoming cannonball back at the noble's ship, destroying its main cannon. Oops. My hand slipped. In the chaos that followed, the Sun pirates escaped with the freed slaves. The official report would state that all captives were lost in the noble's reckless bombardment. It wasn't exactly a lie. Back on their ship, Garp found Luffy sitting alone on the observation deck, unusually quiet. Something on your mind, boy? Why didn't we arrest the noble? He was shooting at Marines. He wanted to kill people who weren't doing anything wrong. Garp sat heavily beside him. Because sometimes, Luffy, being a good Marine means knowing which battles to fight, and when to fight them. That doesn't make sense. Justice is justice. Is it? Garp looked at the horizon. What if following orders means hurting innocent people? What if the law itself is wrong sometimes? Luffy frowned deeply, struggling with concepts beyond his years. The Marines and world government aren't perfect, Luffy. Nothing made by humans ever is. Garp put a hand on his shoulder. That's why we need good people within the system. People who remember that justice isn't just about following rules, it's about protecting those who need protection. Like you did today. Garp chuckled. Don't tell anyone, but yes. Like I did today. When they returned to headquarters, Luffy was different. Still energetic and determined, but more thoughtful. He asked questions in classes he previously slept through. He paid attention during briefings about world government politics. He studied the different interpretations of justice within the Marines. On his 10th birthday, Garp presented him with his own junior Marine uniform, custom-made to stretch with his rubber body. You've earned this, Garp said proudly. You're officially the youngest junior Marine in history. Luffy beamed as he put on the cap, making sure to tilt it at the exact angle Garp wore his. Thanks, Grandpa. Don't thank me yet. Your real training is just beginning. That night, Luffy stood on the balcony of their quarters, looking at the stars and thinking about everything he'd experienced. The Marines, his father dragon, the Sun pirates, the noble. I'm going to change things, he whispered to the night sky. I'll become a Marine who never forgets what justice really means. Little did he know how dramatically that path would test him in the years to come. Chapter 2, The Gray of Justice. 6 years passed like a storm at sea, turbulent, transformative, and leaving nothing unchanged in its wake. The rubber-bodied child who once struggled to control his stretching limbs had become a 16-year-old Marine lieutenant leading his own squad. Lieutenant Luffy. The pirate ship has been spotted 3 miles off the eastern shore. Kobe, now an ensign himself, burst into Luffy's quarters without knocking. Their long friendship had erased most formalities between them. Luffy jumped up from his desk where he'd been pretending to review mission reports while actually napping. Finally. I was getting bored. The captain wants us assembled on deck in 5 minutes. Tell him I'll be there in 3. Luffy grinned, grabbing his marine coat, custom-tailored to his specifications with the word, justice, emblazoned across the back, but left open to show the red shirt he insisted on wearing beneath his uniform. On board the Marine battleship, Captain Smoker briefed the assembled officers. Over the years, their relationship had evolved from reluctant mentor and troublesome student to something approaching mutual respect. Smoker had requested Luffy for this mission specifically, despite the young lieutenant's reputation for unpredictability. The target is the Crimson Claw pirates, Smoker stated, smoke curling from the 2 cigars perpetually clenched between his teeth. Their captain, Red Hand Rodriguez, has a bounty of 25 million berries. They've been raiding shipping lanes for the past month. Any civilians on board their vessel? Luffy asked immediately. His first question was always about potential bystanders. Tashigi, now a lieutenant herself, adjusted her glasses. Intelligence suggests they're holding hostages from their last raid, approximately 15 merchants. Then we need to be careful, Luffy said, unusually serious. When innocent lives were at stake, his normal carefree attitude vanished. Smoker nodded. That's why you're here, Luffy. Your rubber abilities give us options for infiltration that conventional forces lack. The plan was straightforward. Smoker would lead a frontal assault as distraction while Luffy, Tashigi, and a small team would board from the opposite side to secure the hostages before the main battle reached them. As the pirate ship came into view, Luffy stretched his arms, preparing for action. Ready, Tashigi? She nodded, hand on her sword hilt. Just remember, hostages first, pirates second. I know, Luffy rolled his eyes. You don't have to remind me every time. I wouldn't if you didn't get distracted by fighting every time, she retorted, but there was fondness beneath her exasperation. Their relationship had grown complicated over the years. From training partners to colleagues to something neither quite defined. Tashigi's dedication to justice matched Luffy's own, though she followed rules he often bent. Approaching target distance, the navigator called. Lieutenant Monkey, Smoker addressed Luffy formally in front of the crew, commence Operation Rubber Rescue on my signal. Luffy saluted, with the correct hand these days, and led his team to the starboard rail. When Smoker's signal flare exploded above the pirate ship, chaos erupted exactly as planned. Cannon fire, shouting, and the distinctive sound of Smoker's devil fruit powers engaging the enemy. Now. Luffy stretched his arms across the gap between ships, grabbing the pirate vessel's railing. Gum Gum Rocket. He launched himself across, followed by Tashigi and 3 marines who used grappling hooks. They landed on the opposite side from the main battle, unnoticed in the confusion. Lower deck, according to the blueprints, Tashigi whispered. Luffy nodded and they moved swiftly, encountering only minimal resistance from pirates too inexperienced to be on the main battle line. Those few met swift defeat from Tashigi's blade or Luffy's stretching punches. The hostage hold was exactly where intelligence had indicated, a cargo room converted to a makeshift prison. 2 guards stood outside, playing cards and complaining about missing the fight topside. I'll take them, Tashigi said, drawing her sword silently. No need to show off, Luffy grinned, then before she could respond, he stretched both arms forward. Gum Gum Bazooka. The guards never knew what hit them. One moment they were arguing about their bad hands, the next they were unconscious against the far wall. You call that subtle? Tashigi hissed. You call that fun? Luffy shot back as he grabbed the keys from one guard's belt. Inside, they found the hostages, merchants from a trading vessel, frightened but largely unharmed. As the Marines began freeing them, an elderly man grabbed Luffy's arm. Lieutenant, there's something you should know, he whispered urgently. These pirates. They're working for someone else. They were hired to attack specific ships. Luffy frowned. Hired? By who? I overheard them talking about a government official, someone who wanted certain cargo intercepted. They mentioned a name. Spandam, I think. Tashigi and Luffy exchanged glances. Spandam was a known figure in Cypherpol, the world government's intelligence agencies. Are you sure about this? Tashigi asked. The merchant nodded firmly. I've been trading for 40 years, young lady. I know the difference between ordinary pirates and ones with a specific shopping list. They were looking for something particular on our ship. What? I don't know. They tore everything apart but seemed disappointed. Before they could question further, explosions rocked the ship. The battle above had intensified. We need to move, Tashigi urged. Get the hostages to safety first. Right, Luffy agreed, but his mind was racing. Pirates working for a world government official? That didn't sound like justice to him. They escorted the hostages topside and transferred them to the marine vessel. With the civilians secure, Luffy was free to join the main battle, which he did with characteristic enthusiasm. Captain Smokey. Save some for me, he shouted as he launched himself into the fray. It's Captain Smoker, came the automatic response, followed by, focus on the starboard bow. Their captain is making a break for it. Sure enough, a burly man with a distinctive red-stained hand was attempting to lower a smaller boat. Luffy stretched his arm to swing across the deck, landing directly in front of the pirate captain. Going somewhere, Red Hand? Rodriguez snarled, drawing a serrated cutlass. Another marine brat? I've cut down dozens like you. I doubt that, Luffy grinned. I'm pretty unique. The battle was brief but intense. Rodriguez was strong and experienced, but Luffy's rubber abilities made conventional attacks nearly useless against him. Bullets bounced off, sword strikes stretched his skin without cutting, and even the pirate's powerful punches just sank into Luffy's rubber body. What the hell are you? Rodriguez gasped after Luffy absorbed a direct hit to the face. I'm the guy who's arresting you, Luffy replied simply, then unleashed his newest technique. Gum Gum Rifle. His stretched arm twisted as it extended, creating a drilling motion that struck with exponentially more force than a normal punch. Rodriguez went down hard, crashing through the deck into the hold below. With their captain defeated, the remaining pirates surrendered quickly. The marine victory was complete, hostages rescued, pirates captured, minimal casualties on either side. By standard metrics, the mission was a perfect success. But Luffy couldn't shake what the merchant had told him. Back on the marine vessel, with prisoners secured and course set for the nearest marine base, he sought out Smoker in private. Captain, we need to talk. Smoker looked up from his paperwork. About your reckless charging into battle again? Because I've given up on that particular lost cause. No, about something one of the hostages told me. Luffy explained what he'd heard about Spandam and the pirates being hired to look for specific cargo. Smoker's expression darkened as he extinguished both cigars. That's a serious accusation, Luffy. Cipher Pol operatives don't collaborate with pirates. Unless they do, Luffy said firmly. We should investigate. Investigate a world government official based on hearsay from a civilian? Smoker shook his head. That's not how things work. But if it's true, there's probably a good reason for it. Smoker cut him off. Some operations are classified even for marine officers like us. So we just ignore it. Luffy's voice rose in frustration. What about justice? Justice isn't always what it seems, Lieutenant. Smoker's voice took on a warning tone. Sometimes the bigger picture requires compromises. That sounds like something my father would disagree with, Luffy said quietly. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Mention of dragon was still taboo, especially from Luffy himself. Careful, Luffy, Smoker said, his voice dangerously soft. Your grandfather's influence has protected you from the consequences of your more unorthodox views. But that protection has limits. Luffy held Smoker's gaze without flinching. Over the years, he'd grown confident in his own interpretation of justice, even when it differed from official doctrine. I just want the truth, he said finally. Isn't that what Marines are supposed to fight for? Smoker sighed, relenting slightly. I'll make some discreet inquiries when we return to base. But Luffy, drop this for now. That's an order. Luffy saluted stiffly. Yes, Captain. He left Smoker's cabin with his mind made up. Order or no order, he wasn't dropping anything. Back at Marine Base G8, life resumed its routine. Reports filed, prisoners transferred, new missions assigned. On the surface, Luffy followed orders and performed his duties impeccably. But in his free time, he began pulling threads. "You're going to get yourself into trouble," Kobe warned as they sparred in the training yard. Over the years, he'd grown from the timid boy Luffy first met into a capable marine with observation haki beginning to manifest. "I'm already in trouble," Luffy laughed, dodging Kobe's punch with a rubber-enhanced back bend. "Grandpa says I was born troublesome." "This is different," Kobe insisted, narrowly avoiding Luffy's stretching leg sweep. Questioning Cipher Pole. "That's not just breaking rules, that's challenging the world government itself. If they're working with pirates, someone should challenge them." Their sparring match ended in its usual way, with Kobe pinned despite his improving skills. Luffy had long since surpassed most marines his age, combining his devil fruit powers with increasingly proficient haki. "Just be careful," Kobe said as Luffy helped him up. "Not everyone in the Marines is like you or your grandfather or Captain Smoker. Some believe in absolute justice at any cost. Let them believe what they want. I know what's right." Luffy's investigation hit walls at every turn. Records of the Crimson Claw pirates' activities were classified beyond his clearance. Spandam's name triggered security protocols when he tried to access files. Even the merchant who'd spoken to him was now unreachable, having continued on his trading route. 2 weeks after the pirate mission, Luffy was summoned to the base commander's office. He expected reprimand for his unauthorized inquiries. Instead, he found Vice Admiral Garp waiting for him. "Grandpa." He broke into a grin. "When did you get back?" "This morning," Garp said, unusually serious. "Pack your things. We're shipping out." "New mission." "Something like that." Garp's expression was unreadable. "The Grand Line. Paradise section." Luffy's eyes widened. The Grand Line was where the real action happened, where the strongest pirates roamed and the most critical marine operations took place. Base-level lieutenants weren't typically assigned there. "What's the mission?" "I'll brief you on the way. We leave in an hour." Garp turned to leave, then added, "Kobe and Tashigi are coming too. Smoker's been temporarily reassigned elsewhere." Something in his grandfather's tone set off alarms in Luffy's mind. "This is about Spandam, isn't it?" Garp froze momentarily, then continued walking. "1 hour, Luffy. Don't be late." The ship was one of the Marines' fastest, a sleek battlecruiser built for speed rather than heavy combat. As they pulled away from G8, Luffy found Tashigi at the stern, watching the base disappear behind them. "Do you know what's going on?" he asked. She shook her head. "Orders came directly from Marine headquarters. All I know is we're headed to Water 7. "Water 7? The shipbuilding island?" "Yes. Apparently there's been pirate activity threatening the Galila Company." Luffy frowned. "That doesn't explain why Grandpa's leading the mission, or why we specifically were chosen. I think." Tashigi hesitated, glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard. "I think Captain Smoker might have reported your concerns up the chain of command. But he told me to drop it." "And you obviously didn't," she replied with a knowing look. "Maybe he thought this was the safest way to proceed, through official channels, with your grandfather involved." The journey to Water 7 took 5 days, during which Garp remained frustratingly vague about details. They were to investigate pirate threats to shipments of a special timber called Atom Wood, protect Galila shipwrights, and maintain a visible marine presence to deter further attacks. But why us specifically? Luffy pressed during their final briefing as Water 7 appeared on the horizon. Garp sighed heavily. "Because, Luffy, you were right. There's something suspicious about these pirate attacks. They're too coordinated, too specific in their targets. And Spandam? That's where things get complicated. Officially, Cipher Pole has nothing to do with this mission. Unofficially." Garp lowered his voice. "Fleet Admiral Sengoku authorized this investigation because even he has questions about certain operations." Luffy's eyes widened. So we're investigating our own government? We're investigating pirates, Garp corrected firmly. If evidence leads elsewhere, we follow it cautiously. Very cautiously. Understand? Luffy nodded, excitement building. This was exactly the kind of justice he believed in, following truth wherever it led, regardless of who it implicated. Water 7 was unlike any place Luffy had seen before. Built on canals with water roads instead of streets, the city rose in tiers like a massive fountain. At its peak stood the headquarters of the Galila Company, the world's premier shipbuilders. Their arrival caused a stir. Vice Admiral Garp was famous even in Paradise, and the sight of a marine battlecruiser prompted mixed reactions from citizens, some relieved, others suspicious. The mayor will meet with you at Galila headquarters, their local guide informed Garp as they disembarked. He's also the company president, Iceberg-san. I know Iceberg, Garp nodded. We've met before. The meeting with Iceberg revealed the extent of the problem. 7 shipments of Adam wood had been hijacked in the past month. The rare timber, worth millions of berries, was irreplaceable for certain shipbuilding projects. The strange thing, Iceberg explained, stroking his small pet mouse, is that the pirates leave everything else. They only take the Adam wood. Any patterns to the attacks? Tashigi asked. Only that they happen despite our best security precautions, almost as if. Iceberg paused. As if they had inside information, Luffy finished. Iceberg's sharp gaze fixed on the young lieutenant. Exactly. Which is why some in Water 7 are suspicious of this sudden marine interest. You think we're involved? Garp's voice held no offense, only professional curiosity. I think, Iceberg chose his words carefully, that when government organizations take special interest in Adam wood, history suggests complications follow. The investigation began immediately. Luffy and Kobe explored the city, talking to witnesses and gathering information on recent pirate sightings. Tashigi coordinated with local security forces. Garp met with his own contacts, veteran marines stationed in Paradise who owed him favors. On their third day, Luffy made the breakthrough. A small-time smuggler, caught trying to fence stolen goods, offered information in exchange for leniency. There's a warehouse in the lower district, he told Luffy. Used to be abandoned until about a month ago. Now there's activity at night, ships coming and going, crates being moved. Big crates, like the size that might hold timber. Why are you telling me this? Luffy asked suspiciously. The smuggler shrugged. Those guys? They're bad news. Professional. Military precision. Not pirates, not regular ones, anyway. That night, Luffy, Tashigi, and Kobe conducted surveillance on the warehouse. What they saw confirmed their suspicions, black-clad figures moving with disciplined coordination, loading crates onto an unmarked ship. Those aren't pirates, Tashigi whispered. Their movements, they're trained operatives. Cipher pole. Kobe suggested. Maybe, Luffy frowned. But why would they steal Adam wood? They reported their findings to Garp, who ordered continued surveillance but prohibited direct engagement. We need concrete evidence connecting them to Span Dam or CP9, he insisted. The next day, while patrolling the shipyard district, Luffy encountered a tall man with a long nose working on repairs to a small vessel. That's a unique ship, Luffy commented, admiring the unusual figurehead. She's one of a kind, the man agreed proudly. I'm Kaku, shipwright inspector. You must be one of the Marines investigating the thefts. Lieutenant Monkey D. Luffy, he introduced himself, noting how the man's eyes widened slightly at his full name. Monkey D. Like the hero Garp. He's my grandfather, Luffy confirmed, used to the reaction. Impressive legacy to live up to, Kaku smiled, but something about it seemed forced. What brings you to this part of the shipyard? Just familiarizing myself with the area. The pirates seem to know Water 7 well, its layout, schedules, shipping routes. I wanted to see what they see. Logical approach, Kaku nodded. Though pirates aren't known for logic. These ones are different, Luffy said, watching Kaku's reaction carefully. Almost like they're not pirates at all. A nearly imperceptible tension appeared in Kaku's shoulders. What do you mean? Just that they're unusually well-informed and disciplined. More like government agents than traditional pirates. Kaku's smile remained fixed. That's quite a theory, Lieutenant. Suggesting government involvement in criminal activities, some might consider that seditious talk. I'm not suggesting anything, Luffy shrugged innocently. Just making observations. As Marines, we follow evidence wherever it leads. Even against your own. Justice is justice, Luffy said simply. Their conversation was interrupted by an explosion that rocked the harbor. Smoke billowed from a warehouse on the opposite shore. Duty calls, Luffy said, already stretching his arms to launch himself across the water. Nice meeting you, Kaku. The explosion turned out to be a distraction. A small bomb detonated in an empty building. By the time Marines secured the area, another Atom Wood shipment had disappeared from a supposedly secure dock. This is getting ridiculous, Garp fumed during their emergency meeting. We're being played. I met someone suspicious today, Luffy reported, describing his encounter with Kaku. He seemed too interested in why we're investigating. Kaku is one of Galilaw's top shipwrights, Tashigi objected. He has legitimate reason to be concerned about the investigation. Maybe, Luffy conceded. But something felt off. Your instincts have been right before, Garp acknowledged. We'll add him to our watch list. That night, Luffy couldn't sleep. Something about the case nagged at him, pieces that didn't quite fit together. Why would Cypher Pole agents disguise themselves as pirates to steal wood? What could Atom Wood be used for that required such secrecy? He slipped out of their temporary barracks and wandered Water 7's quiet nighttime streets. The canals reflected moonlight, creating an ethereal quality to the sleeping city. His wanderings led him to a small bar still open despite the late hour. Inside, a few locals nursed drinks while a barkeeper wiped glasses. No one paid much attention to the young Marine as he took a seat at the counter. Just water, he told the barkeeper, who raised an eyebrow but served him without comment. Trouble sleeping, Lieutenant? A voice asked from a few seats down. Luffy turned to see a woman with long black hair and piercing blue eyes watching him over the rim of her coffee cup. Just thinking, he replied cautiously. About the missing Atom Wood? She smiled mysteriously. It's a curious case. You know something about it? I know many things, Lieutenant Monkey D. Luffy. She emphasized his name in a way that made it clear she recognized its significance. For instance, I know that Atom Wood is the only material strong enough to build certain types of ships. What types? The kind that might be commissioned by someone who wishes to remain hidden from the world government. She sipped her coffee. Or perhaps by the world government itself for projects it wishes to keep secret from the public. Luffy studied her carefully. Who are you? Just a historian passing through, she said. You can call me Robin. You seem well informed for a historian. History and current events are more connected than most realize. She set down her cup. Did you know that 20 years ago, a similar series of Atom Wood thefts preceded the construction of Pluton? Pluton. The ancient weapon. Robin's eyes narrowed slightly. You know of it? Only rumors, Luffy admitted. Grandpa mentioned it once, a battleship of unimaginable power. Yes. And the world government has sought its blueprints for generations. The implications hit Luffy like one of Garp's punches. You think they're building Pluton? I think, Robin said carefully, that when a government agent like Spandam takes interest in Atom Wood, history suggests complications follow. The echo of Iceberg's earlier words sent chills down Luffy's spine. How do you know about Spandam's involvement? He demanded. Robin stood, leaving berries on the counter for her coffee. Let's just say I've had unfortunate dealings with CP9 before. A word of advice, Lieutenant, be careful who you trust. Even within the Marines. Before he could respond, she walked out, disappearing into the night. The next morning, Luffy reported the strange encounter to Garp, who looked troubled. Nico Robin, he muttered. The demon child of O'Hara. You know her. By reputation. She's been hunted by the world government since she was 8 years old, the sole survivor of the O'Hara incident. What incident? Garp hesitated. A buster call, Luffy. An island of scholars wiped out because they were researching the Void Century. Luffy's blood ran cold. He'd learned about buster calls during his training, the ultimate military action, where 5 vice admirals led a fleet to completely annihilate an island. The fact that his own grandfather had authorized such actions in the past was something they never discussed. Why would scholars be targeted? What's the Void Century? Questions better left unasked, Garp warned. At least for now. Focus on the mission at hand. But Robin's words kept echoing in Luffy's mind. If Spandam and CP9 were stealing atom wood to build something like Pluton, the implications were staggering. Their breakthrough came unexpectedly the following day. A routine patrol by Kobe near the warehouse district spotted Kaku entering the suspected storage facility. He used some kind of key card, Kobe reported. And he wasn't alone. There was another man with him, tall, wearing a top hat. Enough surveillance, Garp decided. Tonight we raid the warehouse. Full tactical team, but quietly. If this is Cypher Pole, we need irrefutable evidence before confronting them. The raid was planned for midnight when activity at the warehouse had previously peaked. 3 teams would approach from different directions, Garp from the main entrance, Tashigi from the sea, and Luffy and Kobe from the roof. As they prepared, Tashigi pulled Luffy aside. Be careful tonight, she said, her usually professional demeanor softened by genuine concern. If we're right about CP9, they're not ordinary opponents. I know, Luffy assured her. I'll be careful. It's just, you tend to charge in without thinking when you're pursuing justice. And you worry too much, he grinned, then impulsively added, it's cute. Tashigi blushed furiously. I'm not, this is serious, Luffy. I know, he said, suddenly earnest. I promise I'll be careful. We all will. The raid began precisely at midnight. Luffy and Kobe landed silently on the warehouse roof, approaching a skylight that intelligence suggested overlooked the main storage area. Remember, observation only until Grandpa gives the signal, Luffy whispered, for once following protocol to the letter. The stakes were too high for his usual improvisations. Through the skylight, they saw exactly what they'd suspected, atom wood stacked in massive piles, being processed by workers. But what they hadn't expected was the partial framework taking shape in the center of the warehouse floor. Is that, a ship? Kobe whispered. Part of one, Luffy confirmed. Looks like just the keel and some of the frame. Movement below caught their attention. Kaku entered with the top-hatted man Kobe had described, plus a third figure, a slender man with long hair tied back, wearing a mask over the lower half of his face. That's Lucci, Kobe breathed. Rob Lucci. He's supposed to be Galilaw's best shipwright, but there are rumors about him. What rumors? That he's killed over 500 people for the world government. Before Luffy could process this, their communication device vibrated, Garp's signal to move in. Simultaneously, all 3 Marine teams breached the warehouse. World government agents. Freeze. Garp's voice boomed through the cavernous space. What happened next was chaos. The workers scattered, while Kaku, Lucci, and the third man stood their ground, showing no surprise at the intrusion. Vice Admiral Garp, Lucci said calmly. This is an unauthorized interruption of a classified Cypher Pole operation. Cipher Pol doesn't have authority to steal from civilians or collaborate with pirates, Garp responded, equally calm despite the tension crackling through the air. We have authorization from the highest levels, Lucci insisted. Direct from the 5 elders themselves. Then you won't mind showing me those orders. I'm afraid this operation is beyond your clearance level, Lucci's eyes narrowed. Even for a hero like you. Meanwhile, Luffy and Kobe had descended to the warehouse floor, examining the partial ship framework. This isn't Pluton, Luffy realized, recognizing the distinctive design from books he'd studied. It's too small, too modern. It looks like. Kobe frowned. It almost looks like a battleship, but modified for extreme speed. A pursuit vessel, Tashigi confirmed, joining them. Designed to outrun anything on the sea. But why would CP9 need, Luffy began, then froze as realization hit him. They're hunting someone specific. His eyes met Garp's across the warehouse, and he knew his grandfather had reached the same conclusion. Robin, Luffy said quietly. They're building this to capture Nico Robin. The tension in the warehouse shifted into something more dangerous. You've seen too much, Lucci stated flatly. This operation is critical to world security. The woman must be captured. By stealing and lying? Luffy challenged, stepping forward despite Garp's warning glance. How is that justice? Justice takes many forms, boy, Lucci's voice hardened. Sometimes it requires darkness to preserve the light. That's not justice. That's just making excuses for doing wrong things. Luffy, Garp warned, stand down. But Luffy had never been good at standing down when his sense of justice was triggered. If you're really serving justice, why disguise yourselves? Why pretend to be pirates? Why not operate openly? Some truths are too dangerous for the public, the top-hatted man spoke for the first time. The scholarly demons of O'Hara nearly unleashed ancient weapons that could destroy the world. The last survivor must be captured before she completes their work. She's one woman against the entire world government, Luffy argued. What could she possibly do that requires all this? That is not your concern, Lieutenant, Lucci said coldly. Your orders are to withdraw and forget what you've seen here. Those aren't my orders, Luffy shot back. My orders are to investigate pirate attacks and missing Adam Wood. Which led right to you. Luffy, enough, Garp intervened, his tone leaving no room for argument. Agent Lucci, I'll need to report this to Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Until then, this warehouse remains under marine jurisdiction. That would be unwise, Lucci's posture shifted subtly, a predator preparing to strike. We have authorization to eliminate security breaches by any means necessary. The threat hung in the air like a storm cloud. Marine soldiers tensed, hands moving to weapons. Luffy's fists clenched, rubber knuckles creaking. Are you threatening Marines performing their lawful duty, Agent Lucci? Garp's voice was deceptively soft, but Luffy recognized the dangerous undertone. His grandfather was angry, truly angry. The standoff might have exploded into violence if not for the sudden blaring of alarms throughout the warehouse. Intruder alert at the south entrance, a voice called over the facility's transponder system. Security monitors flickered to life, showing a figure moving with impossible speed through corridors, a blur of black hair and flowing coat. Robin, Luffy breathed. Secure the asset. Lucci barked to his companions, who moved with inhuman speed toward the intrusion. Without hesitation, Luffy stretched his arm to grab a ceiling beam. I'm going after them. Luffy, wait. Garp called, but his grandson was already launching himself across the warehouse. Luffy landed in a corridor just in time to see Robin turning a corner, pursued by Kaku. Without thinking, he stretched his leg in a sweeping arc, gum-gum whip. Kaku sensed the attack and leapt over it with astonishing agility, but the momentary distraction allowed Robin to gain distance. Marine interference will be considered treason, Lieutenant, Kaku warned, his friendly shipwright persona completely gone. Attacking an unarmed woman seems pretty treasonous to me, Luffy countered, positioning himself between Kaku and Robin's escape route. Kaku's expression hardened. She's the demon of O'Hara. The last repository of forbidden knowledge that could destroy the world. She looked more like a woman drinking coffee to me, Luffy shrugged. But what do I know? I'm just a lieutenant. A lieutenant who should know his place. Kaku blurred forward with speed that would have caught most opponents off guard. But Luffy wasn't most opponents. His observation haki, honed through years of training with Garp and Smoker, allowed him to track the movement. He twisted his rubber body impossibly, avoiding Kaku's finger pistol technique by millimeters. Whoa! That would have hurt. Luffy exclaimed, genuinely impressed despite the danger. You're pretty good. This isn't a game, boy. Kaku's voice held no emotion as he pressed his attack, fingers striking with enough force to pierce steel. The clash that followed tested Luffy's abilities to their limit. Kaku was faster, more technically proficient, and clearly trained in the deadly Rokushiki techniques that elite government agents employed. But Luffy had advantages of his own: unpredictability, rubber invulnerability to blunt force, and the creativity that had always defined his fighting style. Gum Gum Gatling. Luffy unleashed a barrage of rapid-fire punches that forced Kaku to focus on defense. The distraction worked. From the corner of his eye, Luffy saw Robin slip through an emergency exit at the end of the corridor. Your priority target is escaping, Luffy taunted. Aren't you going after her? Kaku's eyes narrowed. Others will handle her. You've made yourself the immediate threat. Their battle continued through the corridors of the warehouse, destroying equipment and walls as they went. Luffy had fought many opponents in his young career, but few matched Kaku's lethal precision. A finger pistol caught Luffy's shoulder, penetrating even his rubber body to draw blood. He countered with a Gum Gum rifle that sent Kaku crashing through a stack of crates. As they fought, explosions echoed through the building. The confrontation between Marines and CP9 had escalated elsewhere. Your grandfather can't protect you from the consequences of this, Kaku warned as they faced off again, both breathing heavily now. Interference with CP9 operations carries severe penalties. So does using the Marine's name to commit crimes, Luffy shot back. Which is worse? Before Kaku could respond, the wall beside them exploded inward as Garp literally punched his way through. Luffy! We're withdrawing, he ordered. Now! But Grandpa, that's an order, Lieutenant. Garp's tone left no room for argument. The situation has changed. Kaku didn't attempt to stop them as they retreated. Outside, Luffy saw why. Marine reinforcements had arrived, an entire battalion surrounding the warehouse. But they weren't Garp's men. Vice Admiral Strawberry, Garp acknowledged the leader of the new forces. I wasn't aware you were in the area. Special orders, Vice Admiral Garp, Strawberry replied coldly. We're here to secure a classified world government operation that has apparently been compromised by your unauthorized investigation. Unauthorized? Garp's eyebrows rose. I have direct orders from Fleet Admiral Sengoku. Those orders have been countermanded by the 5 elders themselves. Strawberry produced an official document bearing the world government seal. Your team is to stand down immediately and return to Marine headquarters for debriefing. Luffy bristled. But CP9 was stealing. Silence, Lieutenant, Garp cut him off with uncharacteristic sharpness. To Strawberry, he said, we'll comply, of course. My men were just following my orders. The journey back to Marine headquarters was tense and silent. Garp confined himself to his cabin, communicating with Sengoku via secured Den Mushi. Luffy, Tashigi, and Kobe were left to process what had happened, and what it meant. They're covering it up, Luffy fumed as they gathered in Tashigi's cabin. CP9 breaks laws, steals, threatens Marines, and we're the ones in trouble. It's complicated, Luffy, Tashigi sighed. CP9 operates under different authority than the Marines. They answer directly to the 5 elders. So they can do whatever they want. That's not justice. No, she agreed quietly. It's not. What happens now? Kobe asked, his usual optimism dimmed. We'll be questioned, Tashigi said. Probably separated and asked to provide individual accounts. And ordered to forget everything we saw, Luffy added bitterly. Which we'll do, Tashigi insisted, giving Luffy a meaningful look. Officially, at least. The implication was clear. What they'd witnessed, the gray areas of justice where world government operatives acted above the law, wouldn't be forgotten, just carefully stored away. 3 days later, they arrived at Marine headquarters on Marineford, the imposing fortress that represented the military might of the world government. Luffy had visited before with Garp, but never under such ominous circumstances. As predicted, they were separated immediately. Luffy found himself in a sterile interrogation room, facing 3 senior officers he didn't recognize. Lieutenant Monkey D. Luffy, the central figure, addressed him. You participated in an unauthorized investigation into Cipher Pol activities. Explain your actions. We were investigating pirate attacks on Atomwood shipments, Luffy stated firmly. Our orders came directly from Fleet Admiral Sengoku through Vice Admiral Garp. And yet you continued investigating after discovering government involvement. We discovered criminal activity disguised as pirate attacks, Luffy corrected. Our duty as Marines is to uphold the law. The law is what the world government defines it to be, the officer replied coldly. Cipher Pol operates with special dispensation beyond standard legal constraints. So they can break laws and we just ignore it. How is that justice? The officers exchanged glances. One made a note on his paperwork. Your file indicates a history of idealistic interpretations of marine duty, the central officer continued. Perhaps influenced by your familial connection to a known revolutionary. Luffy's jaw tightened. My father has nothing to do with this. Doesn't he? The target CP9 was pursuing, Nico Robin, is rumored to have revolutionary connections herself. I met her once, briefly, Luffy admitted. She seemed more interested in history than revolution. History can be a dangerous weapon in the wrong hands, Lieutenant. The questioning continued for hours, circling the same points repeatedly. Luffy maintained his position. They had followed legitimate orders to investigate piracy and discovered government agents breaking the law. Finally, exhausted, he asked, what happens now? Am I being charged with something? Charged? No, the officer almost smiled. Vice Admiral Garp has vouched for your loyalty, as has Fleet Admiral Sengoku himself. You were following orders as you understood them. Relief washed through Luffy, immediately followed by suspicion. Then why all this questioning? To determine your next assignment, Lieutenant. My next. You've demonstrated admirable initiative and combat ability. However, your judgment regarding chain of command is questionable. You require more direct supervision. The central officer slid a document across the table. Effective immediately, you are transferred to Vice Admiral Garp's direct command for specialized training. You will accompany him on his next deployment to East Blue. Luffy read the orders with growing confusion. This wasn't punishment, it was practically a promotion. Working directly with his grandfather would give him more freedom, not less. I don't understand. Some believed you should be court-martialed for interfering with CP9, the officer explained. Others, including Fleet Admiral Sengoku, see potential worth developing. This compromise satisfies both perspectives. Later, reunited with Kobe and Tashigi in the barracks, Luffy learned they'd received similar reassignments. Kobe would join Garp's crew as well, while Tashigi was being returned to Smoker's command. It doesn't make sense, Luffy said as they compared notes. We challenged CP9 and exposed their operation. Why aren't we being punished? Maybe we are, Kobe suggested. Just not in obvious ways. What do you mean? Think about it, they're splitting us up from most of the Marines who witnessed what happened. Isolating us with officers they trust. Grandpa and Smoker, Luffy nodded slowly. Who both already know the truth anyway. Exactly, Tashigi said. They're containing the situation without creating martyrs. Clever, Luffy admitted grudgingly. But it doesn't solve anything. CP9 is still operating outside the law. One battle at a time, Luffy, Tashigi advised. We've learned something valuable, the world government has secrets it protects at all costs. And it's willing to break its own laws to do it, Luffy added. That night, Garp finally summoned Luffy to his office. His grandfather looked tired but relieved. You're lucky, boy, he said without preamble. Sengoku intervened personally in your case. Why would he do that? Because despite your recklessness, you showed exactly the qualities the Marines need: courage, conviction, and clarity about what justice really means. Garp's stern expression softened slightly. And because he owes me a few favors. What about CP9? And Robin? Cipher Pol matters are closed, Garp said firmly. Officially, we never discovered their operation. We investigated pirate activity, found nothing conclusive, and returned to headquarters. But the truth, Garp interrupted, is something you now carry with you, Luffy. A piece of the bigger picture that most Marines never see. What you do with that knowledge will define you as an officer and as a man. Luffy absorbed this in silence. As for Nico Robin, Garp continued, she escaped during the confrontation. CP9 continues to hunt her, but she's evaded capture for 20 years. She's resourceful. She called herself a historian, Luffy said. But CP9 acted like she was the most dangerous person in the world. Knowledge can be more dangerous than weapons, Luffy. Garp's expression turned distant. The Void Century, the ancient weapons, the true history of the world government, these are subjects that have gotten entire islands erased from the map. Like O'Hara? Garp nodded grimly. Like O'Hara. Is that justice, Grandpa? The question hung between them, grandson to grandfather, young Marine to veteran hero, idealist to pragmatist. No, Garp finally said. But it's the world we live in. For now. 2 days later, they set sail from Marineford aboard Garp's personal vessel. Their official mission was routine patrol of East Blue territories, but Luffy suspected his grandfather had requested the assignment specifically, to remove them from the political tensions at headquarters while the CP9 matter cooled down. As Marineford receded on the horizon, Luffy stood at the rail with Kobe, watching the imposing fortress grow smaller. I've been thinking, Kobe said quietly. About justice. About what we saw. And I think there are different kinds of Marine. Those who follow orders without question, and those who remember why the orders exist in the first place. Luffy nodded. To protect people. Exactly. Kobe's expression was unusually determined. That's the kind of Marine I want to be. The kind who remembers. Me too, Luffy agreed. No matter what. As if on cue, Garp bellowed from the quarterdeck, stop philosophizing and get to work, you lazy recruits. Those cannons won't clean themselves. Luffy grinned at Kobe. Some things never changed, even when everything else had. His understanding of justice had been complicated by what he'd witnessed, but his core belief remained intact: protect the innocent, fight for what's right, and never compromise your principles. The Marine uniform he wore might represent an imperfect organization, but it also represented an ideal worth fighting for. Maybe even worth changing from within. Coming, Grandpa, he called back, already rolling up his sleeves. The gray areas of justice would still be there tomorrow. Today, there were cannons to clean and a grandfather to please. And somewhere out there, a mysterious woman with dangerous knowledge continued to evade the world government's grasp. Somehow, Luffy suspected their paths would cross again. When they did, he would be ready, not just with stronger abilities, but with a clearer understanding of the complex world he had sworn to protect. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.